Okay, good morning, everyone. So we are on Kuf Mem Ches Amud Aleph. Kemach.
Sounds like
Ein
weeds.
Kemach, Ein Torah. Seventh line. Ibaya Lahu. Yes, the Kasha. Dekel le'echad u'peirosav le'acher mao. There's different ways to understand this. Rashbam, Tosfos, other Mefarshim, but we'll go with one understanding. If the dekel is to one and the peiros are to another mao, so I give you the palm tree and I give you the fruits that will come from the palm tree. So who gets what? Mi shir makom pire or lo shir. So the way the Gemara is understanding here is that if I give you the fruits that will later come, then that's nothing because it's a what? Davar shelo bo la'olam. If I give you the branches or the parts of the tree from which the fruits will grow, and I give somebody else the rest of the tree, then fine, he gets the rest of the tree and you get the branches of where the fruits will come and you get all the fruits. So when I go ahead and I give you my tree, and I give you my peiros, am I giving you just the peiros, in which case you will get nothing? Or am I giving you the place on the tree from which the peiros will sprout, in which case I'm giving you all of the peiros? Says the Gemara, Mishir makom peri lo shir, imtim selomer la'acher lo havi shir, la'atzmo chutz me peiros amo. And if we're going to say that, let's assume that for somebody else it's not shir. And when I say I'm giving you the peiros, I mean I'm just giving you the peiros, which is basically I'm giving you nothing. Because the davar shelo bo la'olam, and the guy that I gave the tree with gets to keep the peiros of the tree as well. How about when I give you my tree, but I keep the peiros for myself? So maybe when I'm giving it to somebody else, for you I don't really care about you. So I say I'm giving you the peiros, davar shelo bo la'olam, too bad, fine. But when I'm saying I'm keeping the fruits for myself, then I don't just mean the fruits, because it's myself, of course. I care about myself more than anybody else. So if I'm giving except for the fruits, what I mean is not just the fruits, obviously. I want the actual fruits. How do I get the fruits? By saying that I'm getting the stuff, the trees, the branches that the fruits are going to sprout from. So even if when I give it to somebody else, I don't necessarily care. When I come to myself, am I makbid or not? Says Gemara, Merav Amar of Nachman, Im Tim Selomer Dekel Echad Peiros of La'acher La'acher Lo Ave Shir Makom Pirei Dekel Echad V'Shir Peiros of Lefanav, which is this case of La'atzmo Shir Makom Pirei. My time a Kol Lagabe Nafshei Ba'ayin Yofem Mishayer. Because even though when I go and I give you the fruits, I mean just the fruits, and it's a davar shelo bo la'olam, and you get nothing. And the first guy gets everything. But when I'm giving the first guy and then I'm leaving the rest for myself, by myself I clearly want the fruits, and therefore I'm leaving myself not just the fruits, which are davar shelo bo la'olam, I'm leaving myself the parts of the tree from which the fruits will grow, and therefore I will actually get the fruits. We learned this within Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Reish Lakish, number Reish Lakish. If I go and I sell a house to my friend, and I say, I'm selling it to you, but I'm keeping the fenced rooftop, Diyot El Yona Shalo. I'm leaving, then I get to keep the fenced rooftop. And that's pretty obvious, because again, I'm saying, Al Menat Diyot El Yona Shali. Don't get nervous. We're flying, but it gets much harder. Ibayalahu, on this case of being able to keep the Diyot El Yona, Bayid La'echad V'Diyot La'echad Mahu. So again, when I say I'm selling it to you, on condition that I'm keeping the upper roof for myself, obviously I get to keep the upper roof, because that was the condition of the sale. But let's say I sell you the house, and I give you the diyuta. So now the question is, mi havashir lo? Am I actually giving you the diyuta, or do I mean to give the entire house to him? Similar, not exactly, but similar to the case of the peiros. Im tim selomar bayit la'echad v'diyuta la'echad lo havashir. And even if you say that when I give the bayit to one and the diyuta to the other, so the bayit still goes to that guy and he gets everything. Chutz mi diyuta mahu. Let's say I don't say al menat, but I say chutz mi diyuta. I'm selling you the house except for the diyuta, which means I want to keep the diyuta for who? For myself. What's the halacha there? For the same reason that we said before, because at the end of the day, when it's for me, so it's going to be something that I'm going to care about. So he's really taking Reish Lakish to the next level. Reish Lakish is saying, when I sell you something al minas, that I get to keep the rooftop, then of course I get to keep the rooftop. This is saying, if I sell you something and I say that chutz mi diyuta, where you would think that it doesn't necessarily mean that I get to keep the diyuta. Chutz mi diyuta over here, I get to even keep the diyuta because it's la'atzma. However, if I sell you the house and you the diyuta, you get to actually keep the house. And again, the diyuta, it's complicated in the Mefarshim what exactly this diyuta is, because if it's just a rooftop, then why doesn't he get the rooftop? It seems like it's something that's along these lines of davar shelo bo la'olam, whether it's the airspace, whether it's the ability to go ahead and put beams, as I think the Gemara explained elsewhere. That's all the question, but it's the same idea for our purposes. Whether when I sell you something and I sell you something else, am I giving you everything? Am I basically taking away what I sold to the first guy? Or am I selling two separate things, and therefore if the davar shelo b'ol olam, so then the first guy gets to keep everything. But either way, when it comes to atzmo, as we know from psychology, when it comes to atzmo, whatever we give for ourselves, we want to keep. Says the Gemara, this is all liba de Rav Zitzim, ratza lahotzi bazizin motzi, that if I, the owner, want to go ahead and be motzi bazizin, if I want to project beams from the roof onto an adjacent courtyard, I'm allowed to do so because, again, when I say chutz mi diyuta, I keep it for myself. Al makevan d'shari diyuta, makom zazin nami shire. Fine. Again, there's different ways to understand this. Rashi, Rashbam, Tosfos, other Meforshim. When you chazer, you'll be able to go through all the different shitas. Zak the Gemara. We need a little bit of a introduction to this. So the Gemara told us on Kuf Mem Vav Amud Beis that when a shchiv merah, this is a little bit different. When a shchiv merah gives away his possession, so it depends what he's giving away. If he gives away all of his possessions, so then we assume that he was only giving it away because of his death. And if he gets better, then he gets back all of his possessions. But if he gets back some of his possessions, b'mixas, then we assume that he wanted to give them away as a present. And even if he gets better, he doesn't get back the stuff that he gave away because he kept some for himself. It is important to note, and not always so clear, but it's important to note that when we talk about giving away some of his possessions, so if we're going to treat it not as a matna shchiv merah because we're going to assume it's a present, then it's not really a matna shchiv merah, and therefore if there was no kinyan, then the guy does not get to keep it. That's what's important to know, because we think, if I give away something, he gets to keep it. No, you have to have done a kinyan as well. But the general rule, not to get confused, is if I give away all of my properties, so then l'maisa, if I get better, then I get it back. We're not using myself as an example. Somebody gives away all their properties and then gets better. Why don't we use you as an example? So if somebody goes ahead and gives away all of his properties and then gets better, he gets it back. If he gives away some of his properties and then gets better, he doesn't get back the stuff he gave away because it was only because it was considered to be a matana. So now the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yosef bar Menyumi, Amar of Nachman, Shchiv mirashakasav kol nachasav lacherim, Rowan. So now the question becomes, we have a little bit of a more complicated case. Now we got to assess the following. Im b'mechalek meis. So then if the case is mechalek, what's the case of mechalek? That it's clear to us that from the time, because you have to remember, when he gives away all of his property, we're thinking of the very simple case where I write a very nice check for $1 million to you, and that's all my property. But let's say the guy starts giving away to 10 different people. So now what happens? So he didn't necessarily give them all b'bas achas, so he gives away all of his property to 10 different people. Well, how do we know that when he gave number 1 through 9, he was giving them as part of giving away all of his property? Or how do we know that he was giving it away as a gift? Because as we said, if he was giving it away as a gift, then they get to keep it. If he was giving it away as part of giving away all of his property, he just didn't give all of his property to one person, then at the end of the day, they all have to give it back if he ends up getting better. So we have to see, after he gives away his stuff, obviously, listen, if he's still holding some stuff in his possession, if he gives away half of his stuff and still holding, we don't have to see anything. Then we know for sure that he was giving away only part of his stuff, and it's a gift. But if he gave away everything, now the question becomes, obviously he gets better, he wants it back. Now we have to see, well, did you really mean to give it away only as a matna shchiv merah, in which case you deserve everything back? Or did you really mean to give it away as gifts, and therefore l'maisa you don't get anything back when you get better? So it says in Gemara, im b'mechalek, if we see b'mechalek, says the Rashbam, Shemisha, the first, all the way on top. Shemisha rishona sheitchil lechalek hayebedaito lechalek kol nechasav v'lo l'shayar klum. If we see that he meant to give away everything from the very beginning, meis, if he dies, kanu kulan, then they get to keep it. Amar chozer bekulan, if he gets better, then everybody has to give back the stuff. Im ben nimlach, if the case is where we can see, again, based on evidence, based on the circumstances, that at the end of the day, he didn't necessarily want to give away everything, rather he gave away some of it. Then he paused. Then the next day he gave away a little bit more. Then he paused. Then the next day he gave away a little bit more. And he paused. So then we assume that each individual pausing was, I want to give away only some of it today, until the end when he gave away everything. So in benimlach meis, if he dies, kanu kulan. Amad eino chozer ella ba'acharon. He can only go back on the last one. Why? Because we're assuming here that each one that he gives is a gift. Well, the last one, at that point, it's what? It's kol nechasav. It's all of his nechasim. So the last guy, even though he gave to 10 different people and he paused between each one, again, if he gives to 10 different people and he just gives it all, and it's clear to us that he was giving all of them as gifts, as part of giving away all of his property, then they all get to keep it, but then they have to give it back if he's amad. But if, again, he gives it and it's clear to us, and it's not exactly clear how we know exactly, but if it's clear to us that he gives, and then he goes out and the next day he pauses and then he chooses, and then he says, okay, I'm going to give more, and then he gives, then everybody gets to keep it if he gets better, except for the last guy. the question is, the Dilma Yune Kama'ayin V'Hadayayiv. Why are you assuming that if he pauses every single time, that means he's giving gifts to every single person? Maybe he's just sort of going through his money and he has $10 million to give out, so he gives $1 million here. He knows he wants to give out the entire $10 million. He gives $1 million here one day and $1 million here another day, and then he pauses and waits a week and then he gives $1 million here. But when he gives out all the $10 million, why don't we assume that it was part of giving out all of his money, and therefore when he gets better he should get it back? Says the Gemara, no such thing to say that he's pausing and he's not sure. Then when I give you $1 million, now I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to give you 500,000. No, a shchimar is giving out his money. If he wants to give out his money and he wants to give out all of his money, he's going to go ahead and he's going to split it up very clearly before he gives it all out. And there'll be some type of proof that he said, okay, I'm taking my 10 million and splitting. And if there is no proof that he's splitting all of it up, then we are going to assume that each individual thing is a gift. Because shchimaras don't just work off like this. They don't just go, okay, maybe today, maybe today, maybe today. No. They go ahead and they write up all of their stuff on a piece of paper. They say, I'm splitting it up between 10, 20, 30, 40, 5 parts. Then, of course, they don't have to give it out exactly on the same day. But if it's clear to us that they split it all up, then Lamaisa is considered to be giving all of his stuff, and if he gets better, he gets it back. But if he starts giving random pieces here, random pieces there over a course of time, or even over, again, a few days, but it's like seems very random, then Lamaisa, we assume that each one is a gift, and he gets to keep it.
Would my Lashon reveal it? Like, for example, if I said on the last one, and with my remaining possessions...
Yeah, obviously, if we have proof from the Lashon, but we're obviously talking about where he gives stam, where there's no connection and no Lashon here.
Where is about to say that anyways?
We're going to talk about that later, but I don't think he's talking about the Lashon today. Okay. Zak the Gemara. Amar Rav Acha bar Minyumi Amar Rav Nachman. Shchiv me Rasha Kotsav Kol Nechasav Lacherim the Amad Eino Choser Chayshinan Shema Yeshel Nechasim Bebedina Acheres. So now he adds another thing. Now he says, we just said that if you give away everything, so you get it back. Now we're saying no. When you give, even if you give away everything at one time, you don't get it back because we assume you have money hidden in Bermuda. But the Mishnah clearly says, "Lo shir karka kolshu eiman naso kayemes." If you don't leave anything over, then your matana is not kayemes, and if you get better, you get it back. So he's saying now we need to be choshesh. At any time you give out your stuff, you have somewhere else. So therefore, it's always going to be considered to be not all your nechasim, and it's always going to be considered to be a matana. Heichem ishkachsa. Two answers. Amar Rav Chama beomer kol nechsai. If I just say I'm giving you my house in Thornhill and my land and my car, then we have to assume that you have other properties in the Bermuda. But if I say I'm giving you all of my nechasim, then it doesn't matter. Because Lamaisa what? Then it includes all of my properties in the Bermuda. You may not know about them, but you get everything. And in that case, that's what the Mishnah is talking about. Lo shir karka golshu. If I get better, if I had said kol nechasai, then Lamaisa I get it back. Or says Mar bar Ravashi Omar b'muchsak lo delesle, where we have a chazaka that he doesn't have anything else. I don't know if today, I was thinking whether today is harder or easier. Back in the day, it might have been harder in certain senses to know that what he has and what he doesn't have, but it might have been easier because the Maisa is here and this is what he has, this is what he doesn't have. Today, it might be easier because there's more records, but it's much harder to find out what everybody has because it's much easier to hide money today in random different places. So, the Maisa, when there's a chazaka that we know that this is everything he has, even if he doesn't say kol nechasai, the Maisa, we assume he's giving away everything. But again, if he doesn't say kol nechasai, and there's no chazaka as to what he has, then when he gives away the stuff, we have to assume that he has money in Bermuda, and therefore when he gets better, he will not be able to get back whatever he gave away, because we assume that it was only part of his stuff, and if it's part of his stuff, it's a matana, and therefore he doesn't get it back. Good? Now the hard part. Ibayilahu. Zok the Gemara. Chazara b'mixas have chazara b'kula olo. If I go back b'mixas, is that a chazara b'kula or lo? I want to do the Rashbams here, since the rest of it took very quickly. Ibayilahu chazara b'mixas. It's the 5 lines from the wide lines in the Rashbam. Shchiv me rasha kasav kol nechasav le'echad. Volunteer A. We give you all of my stuff. V'chazer bo b'mixas. V'nasan shuv la'acher. Then I go back and say, well, you know what? I don't really want to give you everything. I want to give him 50%. Again, and I could do that because the Shchiv Meira can do that. He can give and take as much as he wants until he actually dies. Skip 3 lines. Mihavya chazara b'chol hanechasim shenasan l'rishon degoli daita shemitcharit b'rishon u'mashanasan l'sheni manna b'mixas hi de'ikar shir v'avi matana v'asu yorshin u'mafki miyad rishon kol hamotzer. So it's a very fascinating question. This is great Gemara. So Gemara says, I give the guy $1 million. Then I go ahead and say, I'm changing my mind. I want to give him $500,000. So do we assume that when I did chazara from you, chazara b'mixas, when I took away some of the money, it was a chazara b'kulei, and I meant to take away the full $1 million, I don't like you anymore, give him $500,000, and keep $500,000 for myself. If that's the case, then what? It's as if I gave him $500,000. He gets to keep the $500,000 no matter what happens because it's a matana, and that's it. Chazara b'mixas, have chazara b'kula.
It can't be for himself.
Oh, lo have chazara. 1 second. Or do we assume that it's not a chazara? When I took away the $1 million from you, I wasn't taking away the $1 million. Ela mashanasan l'sheni kana sheni v'hanoser kana rishon v'im yamon mechelyo yachzer b'shneim sharei lo shir la'atzmo klum. This is the other side. When I take away the $1 million from you, or when I take away the $500,000 from you and I give it to him, am I taking away the $1 million for myself, giving it to him $500,000 and keeping $500,000 for myself? In which case, again, it's a matana b'mixas, and lamaisa he gets to keep everything no matter what happens, even if I get better,
Right.
because at the end of the day, it's a matana. Or do we assume I gave away the full $1 million? That $1 million never changes. Now $500,000 goes to him. $500,000 stays by you because I'm not clear. All I say is I want to give $500,000 to him. The question becomes, what do you do with the other $500,000? Do I get it back? In which case, I'll get it back, and you'll now have a matana, you're $500,000 richer. Or do we just assume you get to keep the $500,000, you get the other $500,000, but if the person gets better now, both of you lose your $500,000 because that original $1 million was all given as a shchiv meirav bekula, and therefore when he gets better, he gets it all back. That's the Gemara's question. Very lumdish question. Beautiful question. That's the easy part. Zog the Gemara. Tashma, we have a proof. Kulan l'rishon, $1 million to the rishon, umixas on l'sheni, and then I give mixas on l'sheni, this exact case. Then I give $500,000 to number 2. Sheni kana, Sheni gets to keep the $500,000. Rishon lo kana, Rishon loses his $500,000. So what does that prove? Well, it depends if the guy dies or not. My lav b'shemes, is it not where he dies? So he takes it back, and now he dies. Well, if he dies, and Shani doesn't, and Shani keeps his $500,000, and Rishon doesn't get anything, what does that prove? If the guy dies and Rishon doesn't get anything, Chazara b'mixas. No. Havye Chazara. Again, what does that mean? Chazara b'mixas. Chazara b'mixas. When I take away some of the money from you, number 1, is it considered to be that I'm taking away all the money, or is it considered to be that I'm only taking away half of the money? So again, if in this case where I gave $1 million to A, that's cool on the Rishon, then I give $500,000 of the $1 million to B. Sheni is kana. B gets to keep his $500,000, and Rishon lo kana. Rishon doesn't get his $500,000. What does that prove? Well, it depends. Let's just say it outside for a second. If the guy dies, so what happens? So my love b'shemes. If the guy dies, so now what would it prove if B gets to keep his money and A doesn't? If the guy dies, then A, if we say Chazar b'mixas is lo havye Chazara, then A would have gotten to keep his money. Because if we say that I only took away $500,000, so yes, if the guy didn't die, he would get back all the money, but when he dies, even if he gave $1 million, all of his money to somebody, and he dies, that person gets to keep the money. He only gets it back when he doesn't die. You have to think this through. So if I give $1 million to you, and then $500,000 of the million to you, well, again, if the guy then dies, and we're saying that only B gets to keep his money, and he gets to keep his $500,000, and A doesn't get to keep his money, it must mean what? It must mean that when we took the $500,000 from A and gave it to B, not only were we giving the $500,000 to B, we were taking the other $500,000 away from A. And that's why when the Shchim Meirah dies, the Shchim Meirah's family gets the $500,000. That's a proof that Matana b'mix, that Chazar b'mixas is Havye Chazara b'kula. That was the Gemara's proof. The Gemara says no, because you can set it up b'sha'amad. You can set it up that the guy gets better. And the guy gets better, and that's why B loses. That's why A loses his money. Now the Gemara later, in 1 second, is going to have a problem with that, because if it's a case of Bisha Amad, then what should the halacha be? If the guy gets better, what should the halacha be? A should have to give up his money, but so should B.
No.
If I give him, listen, if I give him $1 million, there's 2 options now.
Okay.
Again, this is hard Gemara. When I take away the $500,000, and I give it to you, there's 2 options. Either he keeps the $500,000, or he doesn't keep the $500,000. If he doesn't keep the $500,000, then in essence, the way we look at it is that I took back the $1 million, I gave you $500,000, and you get to keep it regardless of what happens to me.
Right.
But if he keeps his $500,000, then that original $1 million is all part of what I originally gave. And if the person then dies, then A should get to keep his $500,000, and B should get to keep his $500,000. And if A gets better, and if the guy gets better, then A should have to give up his $500,000, and B should have to give up his $500,000. Right. So if you're talking about a case of Bisha Amad, then the halacha should be the same regardless. I'm sorry, if the case is Bisha Meis, so then it should be the same regardless. Again, let's read it inside. Chazara b'mikzas have chazara b'kulo lo. When I take away the $500,000 from A and I give it to B, so do we consider it to be that he's taking away the money b'kula from A and then giving $500,000 to B? Or do we consider that we're just taking away half from A and giving it to B, but A gets to keep his half? Tashma, kulan l'rishonu mixas and l'sheni. If I give $1 million to A and then I give 500,000 of the million to B, sheni is kana, rishon is lo kana. Then the guy, we don't know what happens to the guy. B gets to keep his money and A doesn't. My love bishames. So the first suggestion is that the guy dies, and therefore what? If the guy dies and B keeps his money and A doesn't get anything, then clearly that means that when he gave the $500,000 to B, he was taking away the $500,000 from A. Chazara b'mixas is chazara b'kula. And that's the proof. However, the Gemara says no, because you can learn differently. You can also learn that the halacha would be the same kisha amad. That when he gets better, even if you say chazara b'mixas is lo havye chazara, that when you take away a little bit, you're not taking away everything, and therefore he gets to keep his $500,000. So why does he lose the $500,000 here? Because the guy got better. The Gemara is going to ask later, but if the guy got better, then B should also lose his money. But at this point, the Gemara is just suggesting that it's possible that he got better, and you don't have to learn chazara b'mixas havye chazara, which you have to learn if it says mace. You can learn chazara b'mixas lo havye chazara, and he gets to keep his money, and the Maisa, the reason he needs to give it back is because the guy is amad. So you have no proof from this case. Hachanami mistaber. It's also mistaber if you want to learn that this reisha is be'amad midiktani seifa. It's from the sefer. It seems to be that the reisha is going to be amad as well, because the sefer has to be amad. Why? Miksas and l'rishon. Here's the opposite. I don't give $1 million to A. I give $500,000 to A. Then I give a kul on the sheni. Then I give the whole thing to sheni. Well, what's this case? I give him $500,000 to A. Then I change my mind and I give a full $1 million to B. So what happens in this case? Rishon is kana. I can't change my mind and give the full $1 million to B. Why? Because when I gave the $500,000 to A, he clearly gets to keep it. Sheni lo kana. And the second guy, when I give him his $1 million, he doesn't get anything. Says the Gemara, Iyamar bishlama bisha amad mishum hachi sheni lo kana. When I gave $500,000 to A, and then $1 million to B, which in essence was only $500,000 to B, so it only makes sense that B would lose his money if I get better. If I get better, B loses money. Why doesn't A lose his money? Because it was a matana. B loses his money because that was my last $500,000, and at the end of the day, my last $500,000 I get back when I get better. Ela iyamart bishameid. If you say that the guy died, so then when I gave A his $500,000 and then B his $1 million, which is really only $500,000, why doesn't B get to keep the money? If the guy dies, the guy dies. Great. And he can't take anything back. Tarbayu liknu. So it must be that the seifa is a case of bisha amad. And now if it's bisha amad, let's work it back. It's a case of bisha amad. Miksas on the rishon v'kul on the sheni. I gave some to the rishon. I gave $500,000 to rishon. Then I said, well, I'm giving my full $1 million to B. Well, and then afterwards I get better. So what does A get? A gets to keep his $500,000 because, again, it was a present. B's got to give me back the other $500,000 because I got better. And when I gave him the $500,000, it was my last $500,000, and now I got better. If the sefer is Bisha Amad, he wants to learn that the Reisha is Bisha Amad as well, and therefore we have no proof as to whether Chazaka b'mixas have a Chazak or not. Chazaka b'mixas have a Chazak or not has nothing to do with the second case. But when we're trying to learn the first case, we were trying to prove that it was a case of Bisha Meis or Bisha Amad. If it was a case of Bishameis and it proves Chazaka b'mixas have Chazaka b'kula. If it was a case of Bishamad, it proves Chazaka b'mixas lo have Chazaka b'shamad. The Gemara seems to imply that it's a case of Bishamad, but it doesn't necessarily say it has to be a case of Bishamad. It just says from learning the Seifa, it seems like the Reisha is Bishamad. But at the end of the day, we see that we can learn the Reisha and we can learn the Reisha either way, and therefore we don't have an answer to our question. Yes.
I'm confused. If
so am I.
Okay, we'll share confusion. Shchiv Meirah gives away X. He gives him $500,000 to a guy.
Yep.
All right.
How much does he have?
It doesn't matter. The reason why
it does matter.
Well,
if he has $1 million, then there's nothing to talk about. So there's nothing to talk about. That's it.
All right, let's say he has $1 million.
Okay.
Now he turns around and he says, "No, I'm giving $1 million to B."
You can't. Once you go ahead and give the $500,000 to A, it's a matana.
I was trying to understand.
It's a matana. I can only change.
His.
I can change my thing when I give all of my money to one person. Then, since if I would get better, I would get it all back, I can change in the middle of the process. I understand your question.
So
but if I give part, seemingly, because if I give part of it, then by definition it's chal as soon as I give the matana.
It's as soon as you give it.
That's what it sounds like. That's the premise of the entire Gemara. Is that if I give a matana, just like if I give a matana as a regular person, it's chal. So it sounds like when we talk about a shchimer, it's a good point, but when we talk about a shchimer changing his mind, it sounds like when he gives all of his money away, he could change his mind at any point and even take it all back for himself. Because had he died, or because had he gotten better, he would get it all back. But since we deal with the fact that when he gives part of it away, it's a matana, he can never take that back. So anyway, we still don't have an answer to our question. Again, this is a very, very complicated Gemara, but it's a Geshmak Gemara. It's got a lot of lumdus in it. Amalei Rav Yemar l'Ravashi, v'teheve nami b'sha'amad. So Rav Yemar says to Ravashi, we should learn also b'sha'amad. That means what? We assumed that the Reisha was originally b'shameis, and then we said b'sha'amad. And we said if it's b'shameis, so then that proves that chazaka b'mixas have chazaka. Why? Again, kulo l'rishon mixas l'sheni. This is the Reisha again. If I give $1 million to A, and then $500,000 of that to B, Sheni is kana, B gets to keep his $500,000, Rishon loses his money. If it's a case of bishameis, where the guy ultimately dies, he's clearly, when he takes away the $500,000 from A, he's clearly taking away the whole amount, because if not, then when he died, A should get to keep at least $500,000. So we prove that if it's a case of bishameis, then it's going to be a proof that chazaka b'mixas have chazaka. If it's a case of bisha'amad, where he got better, then clearly chazaka b'mixas lo have, because at the end of the day, if he got better, so then why does A, again, we said that kulo l'rishon mixas l'sheni, and I'll just do it bisha'amad. That was bishameis. Bishameis, it must be chazaka b'mixas is chazar b'mixas is chazar b'kula. He takes away everything. If it's bisha'amad, so now he gave $1 million to A and they gave $500,000 to B, and he got better, so B keeps his money, and A doesn't get anything. Well, if he got better, why is A not getting anything? Chazara b'mixas lo have chazara, and therefore it's the original amount that I gave him, and I get it back because I got better. Says the Gemara, Amalei Rav Yemar l'Ravashi v'tehavi nami b'shamad. I can prove that chazara b'mixas have chazara even in a case of b'shamad. Why? Iyamar bishlama chazara b'mixas have chazara b'kula. If you say chazara b'mixas is chazara b'kula, hainu desheni mihaskana. Even in the first case, when I say that B gets to keep his $500,000, that only works if you say that I was taking away all the money from A, as I explained to you outside before. If I say that the chazara b'mixas, when I take away from A, I'm not taking away all of the money, then B should not get to keep the money even when the guy gets better, because at the end of the day, it was the same $1 million that I originally gave. If I never took it back to myself, that $1 million then got split into two pieces of $500,000, but it's still the same original $1 million, which I gave all of my money away with. When I get better, I should get it back. The fact that I don't get it back shows that even in that case, Lamaisa, when I take away the money and I give you $500,000, I'm taking the $1 million for myself and then giving you $500,000. Says the Gemara, "V'hilchas chazara b'mixas havi chazara b'kula." Chazara b'mixas is a chazara b'kula, and when I take away the money b'mixas, it's a chazara b'kula. Since we still have just a few minutes, I want to just go back now because I want to. Again, it's very complicated. I want to now read it in. So now we're paskening the chazara b'mixas havi chazara b'kula. When I take away the $1 million from A, I'm taking away the entire $1 million from A, bringing it back into my possession. And then going again, how did we start this whole discussion? I gave him $1 million, and I said I want to give $500,000 to B. The question was, when I gave the $500,000 to B, was I taking away the $500,000 from A, i.e. taking the entire amount back and then giving B $500,000, or was I basically saying, out of the $1 million you have, give $500,000 to B? So now we're saying chazar b'mixias havye chazara b'kula, and when I take away, when I give $1 million to A and then I give $500,000 of that $1 million to B, I'm not just splitting it up into two portions of $500,000. I'm taking back the $1 million. That's a chazara b'kula, and I'm giving B $500,000. How does that work? Let's read back into the Gemara. Go up 5 lines by the Tashma. Kula on the Rishon, I give all of it to A, umixas on the Sheni, and then I give $500,000 to B. Sheni kaneh, B is kaneh, and Rishon is lo kana. And the first guy is not kana. Now, Chazara b'miksias, Havye Chazara, it doesn't matter what happens to me. When I take away the $1 million and I give the $500,000 then to B, whether the person dies or whether he gets better, Sheni is kana. Because he's only giving part of his money now to B. He took away the $1 million from A, gave half of his money to B. Regardless of what happens to him at this point, B gets to keep the money. If he gets better, B gets to keep it because he only gave him half. It's a matana. If he dies, B definitely gets to keep it. The only question is, again, Chazara b'mikzas havi Chazara, whatever happens, happens. The only difference is, either way, it's going to stay by him. $500,000 will stay by him. When I took away your $1 million, I took it back to my possession. I gave him $500,000. Regardless of what happens to me, you get to keep the $500,000. And that's what the Gemara here means. Reisha mishkachas la, back in where we were a second ago, bein shemeis, bein she'amad. Now that we've established that Chazar b'mikzias is Chazar b'kula, the first case where I gave the $1 million to A and then gave $500,000 to B, Chazar b'mikzias have a Chazar b'kula, then B gets to keep his money and A gets nothing regardless of what happens to me. Either way, B is going to get his money because there was a matan, and either way, A is not going to get his money because when I took it away, I took everything away. And now in the second case, if we say Chazar b'mikzias have a Chazar b'kula, now I gave Miksasan l'Rishon. I'm back up a little bit. Miksasan l'Rishon v'kulan l'Sheni. I gave $500,000 to Rishon, and then I gave the full $1 million to Sheni. Rishon is kana, Sheni is lo kana. Rishon gets it, and Sheni doesn't get it. What's that case? That case, regardless, needs to be a case of Bisha Amad. Because again, if I give part to Rishon, $500,000 to Rishon, and then I give $1 million to Sheni, Rishon is kana, Bein b'shemeis, bein b'shamad. Rishon gets the money regardless. However, if Sheni is lo kana, why would Sheni not be kana? Sheni only would it be kana in the case of b'shamad. Because at the end of the day, what? At the end of the day, again, I gave $500,000 to A, and then I said, I'm changing my mind and I'm giving $1 million to B. Well, too late. A gets to keep his $500,000 no matter what happens to you. The question is, does B get to keep his money? Well, it depends. If the guy dies, B gets to keep his money because it's a regular amount of shchimra, he'll keep his $500,000. But if the guy gets better, then B doesn't keep his money because at the end of the day, that $500,000 that I then gave to B, because when I said I'm giving $1 million to B, in essence I was only giving $500,000 to B because A got to keep his $500,000. So the $500,000 that B got, he'll only get to keep if the guy dies. If the guy dies, he gets to keep it, like any man of shchimra. But if the guy gets better, that was his last $500,000, and therefore when he gives off kulo, he gets to go ahead and he gets it back. That's the Gemara. Not easy Gemara, but very Gishmak Gemara. What are you laughing about? You can give the Gemara. Okay. Ibayalahu, understatement. Let's just finish a few more lines. Hikdish kol nechasa v'amad mahu. If you're makdish all of your nechasim and you get better mahu. So we said, if you give away all of your money, forget about where the money is, Bahamas, this and that. Assuming you give away all your money, kol nechasai. Give away all your money, we said if you get better, you get it back. That's over here, let's say, bottom level. The Gemara's question now is, let's say the person is makdish all of their money and then they get better. Well, what's the question? Well, maybe when I gave away all of my money and I got better, so I planned on giving it away only on condition that I don't get better. But if I get better, then I want it back. But maybe when it comes to hekdesh, when I give away all of the money, I want to give it to hekdesh regardless of whether I get better or not. And even if I get better, Lamaisa says I'm giving it to a worthy cause of hekdesh, I want hekdesh to keep it regardless. That's the Gemara's question. Ibarlu hekdesh kol nechasa v'amad mahu. Mi amrin and kol legabe hekdesh gamaru makne. When it comes to hekdesh, so I'm being makne all of it to hekdesh, and therefore hekdesh gets to keep it regardless of whether the guy gets better or not. O dilma kol legabe nashi lo gamaru makne. Or no, just like when the person gives money to regular people, he wants it back if he gets better. Even when he gives it to hekdesh, he wants it back if he gets better. Now, if we say that when he gives it back to hekdesh, and even when he gives it to hekdesh, he gets it back, then there's nothing to talk about in any of the cases. Then no matter what other case you bring me, if even by hekdesh he gets it back, then every case is going to get it back. That's why the Rashbam makes it clear now that the next question in the Gemara is only based on the assumption that by hekdesh he doesn't get it back. If by hekdesh, again, if over here on the bottom of the totem pole, when he gives it to other people, he gets it back, and by hekdesh he even gets it back, then there's nothing to talk about anything in between. That means he always gets it back. But if by hekdesh he doesn't get back, maybe we would still say that if I do something more than just a regular present, but I give to another cause, maybe in that case, we have a question, do I get it back or do I not get it back? So what's the next question? What's the next case that's a little bit lower than hekdesh? Assuming that by hekdesh you don't get it back, then the question becomes, let's say the guy goes out and he's hifker kol nechasav. He doesn't give away all of his money as a present, but he gives mafkirit. Mahu. Mi amrinan kevan da aflaniyim kashirim gomer magne. Do we say that since he's mafkirit, he basically says, I don't want it back no matter what, even if I get better? Or dilma kola gabi nafshi lo gomer magne. Or maybe we'll say by what? By hekdesh he doesn't get it back. But by over here, by hefker, he will get it back. Like he will give by giving a regular gift. And then if you say that even by hekdesh you don't get it back, and by hefker you don't get it back either. Maybe there are other cases where you will get it back, which are a little bit of a lower level than hefker. What's that? You don't make it hefker, but you give it out to aniyim. You don't give it out to friends. If you give it out to friends, for sure you get it back. But maybe when you give it to aniyim, since you're doing a mitzvah, you don't want to get it back even if you get better. Says the Gemara, you definitely want to give it up and not give it back. Or don't give me so much credit, I'm not that nice. Even when I give it to aniyim, I want it back. Says the Gemara, Teku. I don't know. Tishbi Yitaritz. And therefore, Lamaisa, seemingly, what would we do? I don't know. It's an interesting question. So we would say what? I didn't see this in the Rishonim. So we would say,
he gives it back.
Why? Why would we not say Hamotzi Mechav? Why would we? Oh, okay. But why? Why would we not say Hamotzi Mechaver Olavaraya? Who has the money now? So it depends. Seeming, I don't know. The Shrimera still has possession until he actually dies. So assuming that he didn't actually give up possession, then that's why the Rambam seemingly would say that he gets to keep it, because Hamotzi Mechaver Olavaraya. But again, you understand the Gemara's questions. We said that when you give all of your property away to friends, then you get it back when you get better. The question is, these cases where you're giving it more of a reason to assume that you didn't want to get it back, either because of aniyim, where you're doing a mitzvah, or even on a higher level, where you're not only giving it to aniyim, you're being mafkirit, or on the highest level, when you're giving it to hekdesh, there's more of a reason to assume that even though a regular shliv meirah should get the money back when he gets better, and he was only giving it away because he was going to die, in these cases, there's more of a reason to assume that he doesn't want it back, even if he gets better, and lemaisa, we would say teku.
When we say aniyim, we don't mean he's distributing to individuals, or
in general.
Or do we mean that?
Why not?
Well, if
Say poor in
individuals,
general.
what's the difference between an individual who's a poor man and an individual that is his friend?
Again, maybe for his friends, he's sick, so he wants to give it out and make sure that it goes to the right places, that it doesn't go to the government, so he gives it out to his friends. But if he's going out of his way to give it to strangers who are aniyim, then we're going to say he really wants to go ahead. He could have given it to his friends.
When he gives it each part to each individual ani, he's only giving away part of his possession.
No, so we spoke about that in the very beginning. That was the difference between nimlach and the regular case. We said that if it's clear, and we have to evaluate. If it's clear that he was giving it to each individual ani, but he was just, again, nobody says you have to give all your money to one person. If it's clear from your actions that you want to give all of it away, and you split it up within 10 different organizations or 10 different aniyim, that's fine. That's all of your money. But if it's clear that you didn't have any plan, and you just gave to this one, and then 5 days later you gave to this one, and then a random amount to this one, that's where we assume each one to be. But just because you're giving to different people doesn't necessarily mean. And let's just finish. Lishna achrina, hikdish kol nechasa mahu, hifkir kol nechasa mahu, chile kol nechasa v'laniya mahu, teku. Says the Gemara, teku. We'll pick up here. I started the next part, but we'll pick up with Amar of Sheshas.